Okay, so everybody's here in there. So, well, yeah, I'm Victor Smith, and I want to welcome our audience to the 166th year Christian Church, Northern California, Nevada annual gathering, and this is our first annual, if we can make sure that it's annual webinar series, and we have a distinguished panel that is going to share with us this evening. Norman Beardsley from Lafayette Christian, there he is right there, and we have Larry Love from First Christian here in Woodland, in the Sacramento area, and Jeffrey Godfrey McIntyre from the Sacramento area, and then yours truly, Victor Smith, and I've been here in the Sacramento area since 2017, and I want to, before we go too far, just let our audience know a little bit about how this came about. Let's see if we can get the screen to come up. And it's, I discussed this with, Larry Love is, I like to say the Convenor Emeritus for the Justice Commission. And I remember moving into the Margaret McDowell Manor, and Larry and some of the ministers in the area had started a brown bag lunch downstairs in the conference room on Tuesdays, or it was Thursday, one of those. And some of you may know I'm a professor at the part-time professor at Merced College. So, I commute a couple of times a week from here in normal circumstances down to Merced, and I would always miss these brown bag conversations. And let me say this is the first one that I've ever been able to attend, and I really wanted to I really felt I was missing something and really wanted to do it. So I want to thank everybody here for allowing me to participate in this this brown bag conversation, this off the cuff, as the display shows, and hopefully we'll get into all kinds of things. Take a look at this slide here. I did a little research, Larry, and I don't know whether you're aware of it, but back in I believe it was 2002, the United Nations launched the brown bag tradition K through 12 to encourage students to move out of their comfort zones and connect with someone new over lunch. And it's a simple act, profound implications. And so this, as we're here this October, 18 years later, we're actually promoting this idea that is so important to the education of our young people as they go through kindergarten through college. I'd like to say a little bit about the circles of peace that the Justice Commission, when I came along, I was really impressed when I was introduced to the circles of peace. And I won't say too much about them, but it's it's basically three circles: the circle of inquiry, And then there's the circle of healing and the circle of advocacy. And you know, what I found is that these circles are universal. You know, we use them on a regular basis at the college. As a matter of fact, you know, I found this this week. Our college had sponsored I can make these a little bigger so you can see them. A series of webinars, circle style. They're using the circle piece model in these webinars to comfort and discuss the plight of undocumented students who are on campus. And you know, we have so many that are attending school in fear and uncertainty. So I just wanted to say, wow, this is not a circle of peace ceremony per se, but I think what we're able to do here is start the conversation, and as we grow, communicating with each other and talking and feeling comfortable, getting out of our comfort zones and connecting with one another, we'll be able to use the circles of peace process to apply them to some of the ongoing issues that confront us today. And so, you know, I have a whole PowerPoint full of ideas and situations that have come along for me since joining the Sacramento area and the Justice Commission. But right now, why don't we move over and let's hear what let's get a welcome from Norman Bardsley. He can tell you about himself and the work he's doing. He's you know, he's been a really great inspiration and kind of a mentor for me since meeting him. So let's hear from Norman.
Thank you, Victor.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let me just say a little bit introduction about how I got involved in what's going on right now. Well, first of all, I'm an immigrant, and my dad came here in 1955 to the US because he thought it was a better place for workers. And he had a much better chance of owning a home here than we did back in England. And he really, he succeeded in that. He got a job at Ford on the assembly line. He finished up as an inspector. And so he found the US very welcoming to immigrants. And he was able to succeed and get good health insurance just by his own efforts. And yet now, if I think about the plight of people coming to the US now, it's a very, very different situation. You know, even my brothers are really struggling to get health care. My brothers retired and they lost their health care with their job, and they are finding it very, very hard to get the treatment they need and to survive on the pension and the Social Security. So when I gave up my career position about 15 years ago, I thought I would like to try to see if I can learn a little bit more about what was happening in the country and in our own area. So I became a member of the Compassion and Justice Ministry at our church in Lafayette. And that ministry has been working very hard, but mostly by trying to patch up the mess. by trying to help people who are in trouble or who are suffering, and did very little to actually change the situation to help prevent people falling into difficulties. So about 4 years ago, I joined an interfaith activity in Contra Costa that's called the Multi-Faith Action Coalition. And this is an organization, it's associated with the Interfaith Council, but it's set up just for advocacy. And it is just focused on lobbying. Well, first of all, finding out what the problems are from the church and synagogue ministries that try to help the suffering. But then its focus of its activities is on lobbying, trying to change what is done by the local councils, the city councils, the county, and the state, and a little bit nationally. About the same time, I learned about the Poor People's Campaign, and particularly about the 40 Days of Action. So 3 or 4 times, my wife and I came up to Sacramento to join in the protest there. We were outside the governor's office when the Poor People's Campaign was trying to deliver a set of requests and was locked out. Quite a lot of people in the group were arrested at that time. And one of the things that one of the pastors who was arrested said was really ironic was that he was released pretty quickly because he was a pastor and he was white, whereas the black folks and some of the Latinos were kept for 2 or 3 days. So that was an ironic sort of confirmation of the injustices in our system. Soon after that, I was invited to arrange an in-person workshop at the annual general meeting when it was held in Woodland in 2018. That I thought went quite well because we had about 80 people there, and we had a good selection of people from our congregations around the region talking about the particular issues that they faced. That was a good session, but unfortunately, I don't think there's been too much follow-up. So there are certainly, in probably all our congregations, there are some active members who are really trying to change things. But in terms of the participation of the rest of the congregation, I'm not sure that much is going on besides listening to sermons. So one of the main things that interests me is how we can get more members from our congregations and not just the activists to become involved. I also, in the last year or so, have seen the Poor People's Campaign in California grow. There's a very strong chapter in San Francisco Bay Area. There's a very strong chapter in Sacramento. Another strong one in Los Angeles, led by our pastor, Eddie Anderson, and also in San Diego. But there's much less organized activities in the other parts of the state. So today, what I really would like to learn in this session is, as well as hearing from the panel, I really would like to learn from the people who are the participants about what are the issues in your congregation, in your communities, that you think might be of concern to others in your congregation. And unfortunately, we can't see each other, and we can't give you the option to talk. But we hope that you would put in your input primarily through the chat box. If you just click on the chat box at the bottom of your screen, that will open up and allow you to make some comments or ask questions. Or alternative, you would like to put those questions in the Q&A window, then you can do that also. But as I say, I'm hoping that we can learn from you what you think are the most important issues that we should be tackling now in terms of correcting the many injustices that we see, and then perhaps we can follow up later through the year. I know our regional minister is very keen to do this, and so I hope this is just the beginning. So back to Victor.
All right. Well, thank you, Norman. And I'll never forget. Working with the Justice Commission, and we got a request from Norman, and it needed some work. So I contacted him, and we talked. And so I hadn't. I just moved up here. I said, okay, well, I'm with you, and I was going to meet him over in the protest, right? And I got over there, man, and it was all, protests are that's chaos. People are doing all kinds of stuff, and the cops showed up, and I was like, man, this is a real protest. And I remember thinking, I said, well, where's Norman? I don't know. I didn't know what you looked like at the time, and then I started thinking, well, I hope they don't kill me. I don't get killed, because it's a protest. And it took me a while, but we eventually met your new wife, and we went over, and I learned. So I was so inspired, and so I am very happy that we're here on this panel together. And I know this is tough times. We can't do things like we normally do, but hopefully we'll get some things done here today. We can come back to this discussion unless if you will, and let's give Godfrey a chance to address our audience. We do have one. We have one comment on the chat. Let's see what it is. It says, I'm thinking at the moment, providing food to the families is a priority for most communities. And, food insecurity, that's I don't know who, Lon Robinson, we thank you for that comment. And, I don't know, maybe Norman, you might want to talk about providing food, for families. How about that?
It's certainly a short-term problem of working with food banks and helping with those congregations and other agencies that are giving out food. But again, I think longer term, the real problem is that we should be able to stop this as soon as possible.
Yeah,
I think it's really ridiculous in a state like California, which has at least we used to have the weather and all the water we needed, so we could feed the whole of the country, and yet people still go hungry. Yeah. And with our actions in the Multi-Faith Action Coalition, we have 4 or 5 task forces, and one is on food security. And almost every month there's a bill somewhere in Sacramento or in the with the county supervisors concerned with food stamps and other issues concerning the distribution of food. But it's a very large problem. It goes back to the farmers and the people who work on the farms. It involves the tremendous waste of food, and I mean a lot of the food for food banks comes from stuff that can't be sold in the stores. And for us to pretend that we're an advanced country and yet this is the way we feed people, I think it's atrocious. So I'm really interested in sort of encourage people to get involved with the whole issue of sharing out the food that we produce, so that we can close the food pantries as soon as we can. But in the meantime, we have to do it. We have to be in there, especially with COVID, where we can't, where there's limited interactions, and all the food bank volunteers can't be working. It's a short-term emergency situation, but I really wish we didn't have so many emergencies.
Yeah, yeah. In seminary, I did my field education, my training at a local corner congregation in Berkeley, where they had a pantry, and we get in there and we get that food from the food bank by the ton, and we bag those. We make up 200-300 bags of groceries and boxes, and those people would come and pick those groceries up, and you can see the beauty of it. The people that are their needs are being fulfilled, and that's something that I miss, and since I've been working and moving around and from congregation to congregation down here in San Francisco, I do wish that when this pandemic is ceased and things turn normal, that I can get with the congregation and have a food pantry and help those who don't have groceries to make it through the week and the month and so on. And so that's something I look forward to. And one more thing on it, my ministry is a college ministry. I work at a college, and we have a pantry on campus. And matter of fact, I got a call this morning from one of the deans, and one of my students has been having problems with the food pantry. She's a single mom, and she's unemployed, and they've been getting complaints that she's been going to the food pantry too many times. And I'm well, okay, she's supposed to come once every but she's got children at home. She's out, so she comes to the only place she feels that she could ask for help. And then and other students they get into argument about it, and I call them back, and why don't you just give her a few bags of food? She wouldn't come and ask for it if she didn't need it. And so when we're talking about the Poor People's Campaign, food insecurities and this kind of stuff, this is real. This is real. And like I said, this happened just this morning that I got this call. So anyway, Godfrey, you've been very patient. Thank you.
Sure. Well, my name's Godfrey. I am the pastor at Heartbeat Organic Church in Citrus Heights, which is in the Sacramento area. And I guess I'll give you a little bit of background on myself. I have been, I've got about 30 years experience working with folks who are unhoused or housing insecure. Have done a lot of work with folks that are food insecure. Have always tried to work toward a more just society. My ideas about what that looks like have evolved over the years. And I'm happy to be here with a group of folks who are on that journey and share those concerns. I thought I would just share a PowerPoint. There's a handful of things that, well, let me continue with this. I've been in seminary, and now I've been in CPE, and I've been back and forth. My seminary and CPE training have all been in the Bay Area. My home is in Sacramento. I have felt like I have one foot in each place and haven't been settled anywhere for quite a while. And I'm sure most of you all know how busy those studies keep one. That with trying to keep up with my family and my small church and all of that goes with that. I haven't been able to be as connected to my communities as I would normally like to be. However, I have found ways to stay connected. And those are the things that I thought I'd present today. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint. Share screen. PowerPoint. There we are. Now let's see if it'll work. Great. Here we go. I've entitled my PowerPoint Justice Landscape, Heartbeat in Sacramento, How I See People Showing Up. One of the first ways, as has already been mentioned, is the Poor People's Campaign, which I'm always super proud to be in the same denomination as Reverend Barber, and super proud of our connection to this campaign as a denomination. There are so many ways to be involved with the Poor People's Campaign. And one of my favorite things about it is that there isn't any competition, as was talked about in the faith leaders group that I got to listen in on the other night. What they're trying to do, or a big part of what the movement is trying to do, is to make all of these disparate voices crying out for justice into a single compelling voice. That we aren't competing for a piece of the justice pie, that we don't have to compete with one another as in the pursuit of our various interests, but rather we can join together and band together for the interest of us all, because all oppression needs to come to an end. All oppression needs to be addressed. And when we stand together, then we have a chance of making much more profound difference in the culture. So that's my favorite part about them. I just went online and got on their email list, and I get emails from them that help me understand how I can participate. And I just think that's fantastic. It's really easy to get involved. There's another group called Surge. And Surge Sacramento has been one of the best resources that I've had. They send out emails to help with getting involved with policy change. They keep you abreast of various bills that are coming up and different actions that are happening. For instance, today I got an email from them talking about the Sacramento area Board of Supervisors meeting and ways to be involved, ways to impact that meeting, ways to communicate the will of the people toward that meeting, and other things. But the email lists have been just a tremendous resource for me. And this one I found to be very good, particularly for local issues. And then, of course, there's Black Lives Matter, which we all know. I think even just if I wear a button, if I have a sticker in my window, the solidarity of people who have decided to stand with our Black brothers and sisters who are being murdered and attacked, brutalized by state-sanctioned violence, I think that solidarity is significantly important. And in my work, in my fellowship, I continually encourage people to that solidarity. Mm-hmm. I've been on several marches with Black Lives Matter. but I haven't been able to go to all the ones that I wanted to go to because of my schedule. But there are a lot of other ways I can contribute financially. I can keep abreast of what's happening. I can even just saying the names. And that's why I use this, this slide, because I think one of the most significant differences that can be made can happen because we know the names of the people that have died at the hands of state-sanctioned violence, so that they're not invisibilized, they're not erased, they're not forgotten. And then there's another group called the Freedom Center for Social Justice. They're out of North Carolina. They're not a California or local group. However, I find that they have tremendous resources. They've been very helpful to me. They are particularly focused on LGBTQ issues. And so they also keep me abreast of things that are happening in policy, but they offer education and resources and tools to be able to help to be able to stand with folks that are marginalized in that way, who have sexual and gender identity oppression that they face. As a trans person, I was a trans seminarian scholar as part of their program and got to go all over the country. I got to attend several really important conferences, and I continue to follow their work with the transgender community, and it continues to be very effective. But the tools and resources is the main thing that I get from them. And then locally, we have the Gender Health Center, which provides all kinds of services for gender diverse folks. And a lot of training, a lot of awareness raising, a lot of opportunity to engage with the community for folks that are outside the community that don't really understand. They have a lot of fundraising opportunities every year where you can come and just, you can get to know people. You can participate in some of the activities that might be a little out there for more conservative folks or folks that haven't been exposed to gender diversity. But it's a way to break down those barriers. It's a way to, like Victor was talking about earlier, kind of overcome some of the biases that happen just from a lack of exposure to different communities. I also refer people pretty frequently to the Gender Health Center for resources with regard to particularly transition, but also just help with gender identity. I refer parents there. I'm also a fan of the support groups that are available for families and friends. And they also have groups for the teens. We have an LGBTQ center here in Sacramento. And I know a lot of folks are really excited about working with them. I have found, not to throw shade on anybody, but I have found them to be a little bit less of a voice from a marginalized perspective, a little bit more of a mainstream kind of normative perspective happening there. And so I tend more towards this group because I don't want the people that I refer to feel tokenized or patronized by the people that are there to serve them. Another thing that's happening like everywhere is the push for the vote. And I think that it's really important. I think this is something that all of us can do, whether you're a leader or a layperson, it doesn't matter. Talking to your friends and family and the people within your scope of influence about voting and the importance of voting. Even if people don't feel like their vote makes a difference, if we don't get out and vote, then there is no evidence what the will of the people truly is. Even if our votes actually don't, in this moment, serve to bring us the outcomes that we desire. If people get out and vote, then it proves the will of the people. And that evidence will help us to continue in the fight for justice. I believe that. So I'm a big advocate of voting. And then solidarity is one of the most important things in social justice. And so I find ways to be in solidarity with various communities, whatever communities I am able to engage with. I'm in solidarity with the disabled community, with the mentally divergent community, with the LGBTQ community, particularly the transgender community, particularly the TPOC community, trans people of color community. I'm in solidarity with anti-racism people work. And one of the things that I really wanted to point out about solidarity is that in order to be in solidarity with a marginalized group or with a marginalized effort against oppression, you have to go against solidarity. You have to break solidarity with those identities that we hold that are dominant and normative. And sometimes, like these camels here in the middle, we have to go against the flow of the people that surround us. So even though I know that right now the author is problematic, particularly with my community, I love this quote from Dumbledore. Sometimes we must choose between what is right and what is easy. So thank you for listening. That's kind of what I had to bring. This is my contact information. If anybody wants to talk more about those things or other things or yell at me, whatever.
Well, all right. If you don't mind, Jeff Godfrey. I keep wanting to call you Jeffrey Godfrey. I can't help but think about, seminary. We learn a lot. We do a lot. And I was in a course on church and community, and so I had to get the big book. All these nonprofits and so on, and I had to pick out 5 of them and actually go and volunteer, but talk myself into these organizations and do some work, and then write a study, a report on it. And so I found myself over at this big high rise over in San Francisco. I won't say the organization, but they have millions of dollars on their budget, and you go in there, and you gotta get past the security downstairs, go up the elevator, go up to the top, and you get there, and then they meet you with a clipboard, right? And it's like, we have other clients, ahead of you, and so on. And I'm thinking, man, I thought I was applying for welfare, because I've been on welfare before, and it's this bureaucracy. And I'm saying, I don't know how they would, I didn't really want to stay there and get any help because I felt so dehumanized. I really did feel like a client. And then compared that to some guys that had a little office down there over in the Mission. And I walked in there, and they didn't even know my name. And they said, "Hey, man, you need some help? We don't have much money, but we can get you something to eat, and what's going on?" And they thought I was homeless, and they even invited me to it was about closing time, and they come spend the night with us, and it's just a difference in the way people approach things. And I always said that if I get a chance to do some work in the community, that I would be more like the second group than that first one. You know, that big corporate place that I don't know whether they help anybody or not. You know, and then they got branches all over the country. So anyway, how about let's see, we take a little short break. Let's see, I think I have something here for us. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see. All right.
Y'all help me right quick, text your name and tell them, I don't care what you're going through. Because the Lord is on your side. You are going to make it after all. Just touch 7 people and say, yes, 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 yes. Hello. I don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. It may be sunshine, it may be rain, but I know one thing, God, you're gonna make it after all. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. You can say rain. How do you know what your future holds now? How can you be so aware? You hold the future. He also holds. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Sing, Steve. You can say what you want and do what you will. Ain't gonna let it get me down. No, no, that's the mind just can hold on. Ain't gonna let it get me down. Can't you see that I'm a little too strong? This is why I can't go wrong. Not as long as I hold on. But tomorrow's gonna rain. It may be sunshine, but the way I feel, I don't care if it's rain. Cause I know I'm gonna make it. Gonna make it. If you think you're gonna make it, just gotta praise him.
All right. I just thought I'd break up the session here, and the next voice that we're going to hear is that of the Larry Love. Well, he's a great guy. I love him. Let's see, we got a chat here, Larry. Let's see what is a comment. Okay, in our community, it is affordable housing. We live in environmentally sensitive area in the Monterey Bay. and there's a large hotel being proposed, which will have a significant environmental impact. The destruction of 79 mature trees, harbor, still habitat in danger. Well, I'll tell you, now that's quite something going on there. So, Larry, I don't know whether you want to tackle that or not, but we'll. What happened, Larry? We lost Larry. But I mean, that's a reality. Later on, maybe we can talk more about it. But here in Sacramento, recently, the news accounts have been reporting that so many millions of dollars have been allotted to hotel and motel owners to help with housing insecurities here in the area. And I don't know how it's effective it's going to be, but we'll wait and see. Okay. Well, Larry, you're up.
All the way back in college. It was then Northwest Christian College, and then it became Northwest Christian University, and now it's Bushnell University.
Yeah, all right.
in Eugene, Oregon. But in my Old Testament class, same professor my wife had several years later, Dr. Songne Reed, pointed out that Micah 6:8 summarized the call of God in the whole of the Hebrew Bible.
Mhm.
God has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. And Nancy and I both love that passage so much that when our son was born, there was no question but that his name would be Micah.
Mhm.
So do justice, love kindness. Love kindness is nice, but it's really not what the word means. It's the word, the Hebrew word chesed, and it basically means to live in covenant with all other people,
Mhm.
seeking the well-being of one another. And Micah 6:8 is kind of a governing text for me. And I'm kind of like Godfrey. I have irons in the fire all over the place. A number of, I don't even know where to begin now, but a number of years ago, probably 6-7 years ago, the city council was dealing with a resolution, a no camping resolution that in effect would make it illegal to be homeless in Woodland unless you are constantly moving.
Mhm.
Because if you ever stopped to roll out a sleeping bag in a park or on a city bench or anywhere, that was regarded as camping. And so I and several other people from Woodland Ecumenical and Multi-Faith Ministries went to the city council and spoke against that resolution, and they did delay it. They actually have passed something like it, even stronger in the meantime. But not long after that, at a board meeting of our church 5 years ago or so, at the end of my pastor's report, I talked about how I was concerned about the homeless in the city of Woodland, because that it was basically illegal to be homeless unless you were constantly moving. And I just made a comment. And as soon as I completed my pastor's report, 7 of our 10 board members volunteered to be on a homeless ministry team that would start looking into things and what we could do. We started out kind of small. We interviewed folk at the shelter, Forth and Hope, which is a faith-based shelter and feeding program, and we interviewed some homeless people around town to see what their needs were, and finally I gave Dan Bryant a call. Dan Bryant is a Disciples of Christ pastor at First Christian Church in Eugene, Oregon, and also the executive director of Square One Villages, which at that time had a project called Woodland Opportunity Village Eugene, and they had about 30 tiny houses, simple tiny houses without electricity or running water. They had a community bathroom, a community building, a yurt that had Wi-Fi and electricity and heat. And we wanted to look into the possibility of doing something like that in Woodland. So we had Dan come down, and he visited with us. And then I believe he came down another time, and I took him to meet with a city councilman that I know. And then we had a meeting that evening at the church, and had about 75 people from the community, including the city manager there, to hear what Dan had to say. So we kept trying to find ways to go with this, and a former county supervisor came to one of our meetings, and I made the comment, what if we were to come up with $85,000 and just walked into the city council and said, we've got this money, we would like to build this tiny house village to house homeless people. Where will you let us put it? And he just kind of laughed at me, because he said, cities and counties don't work that way. And we've discovered that, because we are still at it. The church has done a couple of things. We've supported a couple of homeless people. One of them, a 70-year-old man, he slept in his car in our parking lot. We gave him a key to one of the buildings so that he could use the restroom, and we finally got him housed at an Eschaton facility in Sacramento. And by the way, Eschaton was started by a group of Disciples pastors.
Right.
It no longer has a Disciples of Christ connection, but it was started by Disciples pastors. And so he is now housed, but he slept in our back parking lot in his car for 9-10 months before we were able to get him housed. And we're currently working with a woman who is she's documented from El Salvador. Doesn't speak very good English. She's been here 13 or 14 years. And we have, for several months now, paid $400 a month to house her in a room in some people's house and then in an apartment. And now the city of Woodland is housing her in a motel through December. But where we've kind of headed now, one of our church members brought in a woman by the name of Kathy Trott, who had been a bank executive and also the president of the board, founding president of the board that founded YOLO Food Bank, which is doing major work in feeding people in Yolo County right now. It is incredible the amount of food that they have, that they're putting out every day and every week. But she'd been the president of that board for 13, 15 years. And she came and joined us, and we formed a nonprofit called Woodland Opportunity Village with the intent of developing tiny housing for very low income people. We've had a lot of fits and starts. We tried some things. They got shot down by the city or the county. And we've discovered that we just need to talk about low income housing. So we're currently working on a couple of projects. We are a very junior partner with the city, the county, a nonprofit, the shelter, Fourth and Hope, and Friends of the Mission, which is connected with Fourth and Hope. And we are working on a project to build a new shelter that will house 100 people out in Northeast Woodland and take the shelter out of downtown Woodland. And also will be moving Walter's House, which is a drug and alcohol treatment facility that's connected with Fourth and Hope, out there and expand it from 45 to like 80 residents. And then we're also building 61 units of tiny housing for very low income persons. About half of the units are being funded by a state program called No Place Like Home. And so the people who will live in those units all have to have a mental health diagnosis, mental illness diagnosis. And then the other, it's about a $15 million project in all. About 4.9 million of that has come from No Place Like Home. We're getting money from Sutter Health and Dignity Health and the county and the city. We're not quite there yet, but the shelter is up and we'll start housing people in November. And we're hoping maybe sometime next summer we will have start having some of the 61 units in place. But like I said, we're very junior partners on that. We're basically there because they needed other nonprofits to bolster their grant writing to make it a little more effective. But Woodland Opportunity Village will also do the case management for somewhere between 10 and 20 of those units. But our dream project is 12 units of tiny housing, 6 duplexes, and a community building, which we are planning to put on 0.46 acres at the corner of Freeman and Kentucky in North Woodland. And we've been working on this. It's land owned by Friends of the Mission, and they're willing to let us develop on it. So we are working in partnership with them. We're working with an architect in Eugene, Oregon, who has come up with some absolutely gorgeous designs for these little houses. And we think that we will be able to get some project-based vouchers that will enable us to house people there for 1/3 of their income or 30% of their income. And a little family foundation that has a vineyard here in Yolo County started talking to us about making a gift out of their foundation. So we're starting to get a little bit of traction after 3 or 4 years of being in existence. So that's one of the things I've been working on. I'm the vice chair of Woodland Opportunity Village. We have a retired public works director for the city who's on our board, a retired physician, 2 hospital social workers. Kathy Trott, the bank executive, is our board chair, and we have the managing attorney for Northern California Legal Services, or Legal Services in Northern California for Yolo County, on her board. So she does all the legal stuff for us. So we've got a good group, and I think we're going to start getting going with that. I'm also a part of Woodland Ecumenical and Multi-Faith Ministries. I've just finished the end of last year a 2-year term as the president of the organization. It is made up of 6 mainline churches, the Catholic Church, 2 LDS wards, a representative of Christian Science Church in Davis, a representative of the Sikh community here in Woodland, as well as the Woodland Muslim Mosque, and an African American church, Greater Second Baptist Church. And it really is a great great diverse organization with a great purpose statement. The purpose of WEM shall be to call together diverse faith communities to foster unity, service, and fellowship. The mission of WEM shall be to create, celebrate, and cultivate diverse faith and cultures in the community, develop and support interfaith and ecumenical worship and learning opportunities, serve the poor, oppressed, and needy for the sake of building bridges of hope between faith communities and persons in need, advocate for the full humanity and inherent value of all persons, and model and encourage the responsible stewardship of the planet and her resources. The vision of WEM is to be and become the beloved community. And most recently, we did a 6-part series. A woman named Sandy Holman, who is the director of the Culture Co-op in Davis, and has produced a documentary called The Cost of Darkness. And it's on racism. She did she did 5 1.5-hour sessions with us in October, and I think went pretty well, though some of the members of the African American church were not, kind of felt like too many of the white folk were showing signs of discomfort with it all, because it really did push us in our racism and our white supremacy. So that's really a good group and has all kinds of potential if we can just get going a little bit more. I'm also a member of the District Attorney's Multicultural Community Council for Yolo County. And it is a very diverse group that meets with the district attorney and the deputy district attorney once a month to bring up with the DA various issues from the various minority groups within Yolo County. I am there because I was, as a representative of Woodland Ecumenical and Multi-Faith Ministries, I am the only white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male in the group, which is kind of nice. And really, this DA is pretty progressive with doing drug court and mental health court and neighborhood court, and now is working with a group from the East Coast called Measures for Justice at getting up a website for the DA that just puts out all this transparency, all these all the different information about arrests and charging and who is brought to trial in Yolo County. So it will make the work of the DA quite transparent.
Yeah.
Within the church, we have a couple of people who are working hard to kind of get us to nudge us towards being more environmentally sensitive, and would like to see us become a green chalice congregation. The board voted unanimously to put up signs around the church that say, we welcome you regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of your gender identity and nation of origin. But we have never actually gone through the whole process as a congregation to become open and affirming. So we're kind of made some strides there, but we really need now to do the hard work with the whole church. And we've had a couple who are CASP certified, and they have come and done a whole ADA assessment of our whole building. Did it pro bono because they like the church. And so we are in the process of setting about doing a $50,000-$60,000 project over the next 4 years to get our facility as ADA accessible as old buildings possibly can be. So we're kind of setting out on a project to become as welcoming to as the diverse population around us as we can possibly be. Well, that is probably enough.
Thank you, Larry. That was great. Could I, because of Kimberly's question, affordable housing, I think, is an issue that's of concern for almost all our congregations. And I want also to point out a couple of things ways in which our regional disciples are involved. One is through the Christian Church Homes, which is it started out as a local organization founded by disciples members, in particular by Don Stump and his family. And Don has just retired. And so I think for the first time in 60 years, that organization is led by someone from outside the disciples family. But the organization has grown. It now has properties to house low-income seniors in many states. And it's grown often by taking over establishments that were running into financial and managerial difficulties. So they've always been very, very professional. And so I really hope that our disciples in our region will not lose touch with that organization.
Yeah.
Sid, the new director, was able to take part in the AGM, but I don't think he had opportunity to speak. So right. I hope that all our congregations will continue to support that. And one other.
Can I say just a word?
Yes.
My Margaret McDowell Manor in West Sacramento, where my wife is the community manager, is a Christian Church Homes facility. And actually, my father-in-law was the administrator of a Christian Church Homes facility in Marysville. And I think Nancy, my wife, may be the last Disciples of Christ employee of Christian Church Homes. I may be wrong about that, but I think they're written into their bylaws is that a certain number of the board of directors have to be from the Disciples of Christ.
And I know Victor is familiar with that place because that's where you live, right, Victor?
Yeah, you're right. I'll never forget the time I was at annual gathering and Don Stump, he gave a report on Christian Church Homes and their mission and how they were. Their mission was to help seniors who, wouldn't make it otherwise. And after during the lunch break, I went over and I talked to him, and he says, "Hey, man, you go on." He gave me a little card with a site on it, and I went online, and it took me about 5 years to make it happen, but. I did. And, at the time I applied, I was in, for those of you who don't know, I mean, I lived on the street, homeless, for 10 years. 10 years I spent living on the street like we see today. In camps and tents, and I remember sleeping on the railroad tracks, and it's tough. and I pulled it together, and then I went to work for, I have education, I'm seminary trained, and I got a job. I wasn't able to, hook up with a congregation, but somehow Merced College, I got connected with them. I've been there 14 years now, part-time, but part-time professor, you don't get benefits. You don't get, the most you can work is 10 hours. So it's just like 1 degree away from poverty, even though people look and say, oh, that's a prestigious, high profile career. But that's not where the community colleges and the state universities are coming from. They are, in a lot of cases, the majority of their professors are part-time, no benefits and no health and so on and so forth. So, you have these educators who are $1.98 away from disaster if you get sick or like a dental, you get a toothache or something, like it's over. Anyway, so I appreciate Margaret McDowell Manor. It's been great for me, and like I say, I it means so much to me that I pull out of here and drive to Merced every day I needed to go. I didn't miss a day, and go there and teach my class and then come back. And so anyway, I'm glad you, Norman, you addressed the question that was on the chat, because, and like Larry, you mentioned, when you're in areas like here, where there's some, like the trees and the environment, the native lands are so historic and so on, and then you want to try to help, you want to try to build something that's affordable, and those developers come in and they want to put a multi-million-dollar project up, but they're not going to let any low-income people come in there, and you got the same. It's the same thing all over again, and so this is the kind of thing that I was listening to you, Larry, and I'm reminded of the parable of the mustard seed, and you got this mustard seed that you've planted out there in Woodland, and it's growing, and it may not look like it, but it is growing. It is, and you know what? You're gonna need help. You're gonna need people to get in there and do some things with you that are not high-paying professional stuff. You're gonna need somebody maybe to receive people at the desk and screen and get those get the name and address and get and get them where you can help them. Not like that multi-million-dollar organization I went to investigate in San Francisco, but those guys with the Catholic worker that are on the streets, they walk up to you and say, hey, can we help you? And so this brown bag tradition is, I think it's consistent with the Poor People's Campaign. It's consistent with Godfrey's ministry and in the CPE and in his congregation. It's consistent with the work that I'm doing with the students at the college. They don't know it, But, often, very often, I'm almost on my knees praying, preaching, to the young, to reason with the young men and women, and how important education and how they need to stick it out and push through and pursue and graduate and take on jobs and careers and vocations and move forward. And I think that's what I think we're doing when we continue this tradition, this brown bag tradition that started by the United Nations in 2002. Can you believe that? Did you know about that, Larry? I'm an educator, I'm a teacher, I research, and I found it, and I was so surprised and proud to be a part of what you're doing here, what you started, and let's see, did we lose Godfrey?
Victor, before we go off housing, could I just mention another huge opportunity we have right now, and that's in Paradise.
Oh yeah.
Most of you know that town was completely devastated by fires about 2 years ago. We have a church there that was very, very fortunate, and the building was hardly damaged at all. And the building, we are also fortunate in that building has a couple of plots of land with which are already zoned for housing. And the pastor there, Janice, is working very hard to gather the funds and the organization to build affordable housing on their land.
Yeah.
And it is a great opportunity because NIMBYism is different there now, because the whole town knows it has great needs. Now, I suggested to them that maybe they consider senior housing, but Janice explained that there are no hospitals there, there are no doctors there, so that's not appropriate. But there are families who would like to move back. And so I really hope that we as a region can work with Janice and maybe help her to make all the connections of the kind that Larry has just described, so that they can go ahead with the project, because she's really keen. The church there has already a great ministry in terms of providing day-by-day help for the people who are trying to return. But I think this would be a wonderful chance for us to do just a little bit to help with rehousing for the people in Paradise. And it's not too far from Yolo County, so I hope we can follow up with this, Larry.
Yeah, well, Godfrey's back with us. It's I'm looking at my clock. It's a little bit after the quarter past 8, and we only have a few minutes left. I actually have a request. My son, young Victor, he asked me to bring to this conversation. He says, don't forget the young generation, the hip hop generation, and he says that we're experiencing unprecedented violence, in particular gun violence, and he said mention it in the conversation, because we need help. And this is the first time I've ever heard something like this coming from this, this particular social group, these rappers. And he said, man, they're feuding all over the Sacramento area, Stockton, the Bay Area, confiscating hundreds of guns. People are being shot and killed. We already have the pandemic going, but this, I think the pandemic is making things worse. People are unemployed. They're on the streets. They're stepping on each other's toes. They're bumping into each other, and they don't have conflict resolution skills, and you know where those values come from is us. You know, this is where we teach it. The elders in the community, in the congregations, in the churches, and so on. This is where we spread the word. This is where we embrace them. And so I just wanted to be obedient, and I told him I'd mention it. And I don't know whether he hasn't sent anything on the chat or not, but I told him I wouldn't neglect to say something on behalf of the young brothers and sisters that are musicians and from that generation. And you know, they're our children. They're our children. They're us. And you know, I pray for them. I pray for my son, you know, in his generation. You know, he doesn't want to be a part of that. And he just feels that it's so much of it. You know, you go out and you see people that you don't know, and you get into it with them. And next thing you know, gunfire has erupted. And it's not right. It's not right. And somehow we need to, as a people, we need to work on it. And it starts with a conversation, you know, an idea, and so on. And next thing you know, you got a group of people that have reduced this kind of stuff. And anyway, I just wanted to say that. I don't know what you guys think about it. But, well, I don't know if we got 7 minutes. Anybody, is there anything else that we want to bring up and talk about? You know, I will say this, Larry. You know, you got a lot going on, and you know, I think one of the purposes for something like this, and Norman as well, is that you know, I want you to know I heard you cry, I heard you call, and I think that I'll be willing to do what I can. You know, I'm gonna let you know when I see you come out visiting. What do you need? You know, that maybe I could do, because that's what it's going to take. You know, you're gonna need some people to get out there and do some things to help. Okay. Now we got some people showing up on there. Let's see. I don't. Kimberly Brown, Neil Mahan, are they with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and your stories. And, you know, Victor, I'm very moved by your story. And your story, one thing Reverend Barber said recently is that we represent millions. And so I want to say that to you, that your story is not just your story. It's the story of millions of people in this country.
Yes.
And that is really, you know, we, as Norman said, we have to do something about that on the policy level, because it's not true that 140 million people have all made some mistake or had some personal failing, or, you know, weren't smart enough, or, you know, that's part of the false narrative about who poor people are and why we're poor. So I just want to thank you for sharing so honestly your story.
Yeah, you know, can I mention something that I noticed, you know, when I made out my ballot, you know, here in California, there was an initiative to make it harder for people like myself to get paroled, to get out of prison, and to put things back together as far as expunging their records and so on. You know, I don't have a prison record, but I did have a record, and the state of California. You know, I was in jail, and people came in and they talked to me and they said, "Hey man, we have a program. We'll help you get your record where you can pick up and take off." And I did this clean slate program in California, and I went through it. It was not easy. It was work, and I mean they made sure I did. When I went to court, the judge was so impressed. I didn't have to say anything. He said, "Mr. Smith, whatever you ask for, you can have. See you." And that's the way it went for all of us that was there. But on the 2020 ballot is an initiative to take that away from people who are trying to pick up the pieces. And so this is something that I had no idea was on the ballot until I actually picked up the ballot and looked at it. So this is something that I hope is defeated, and that the state of California is able to continue to help people who need help.
Here.
Yes. So it's something that we need to look for as we continue the brown bag conversations, Larry. Once we're able to, and of course, you know, I do recall you mentioned that you're going to continue to organize the brown bag conversations online, and if that's the case, you know, I'm with you all the way on that. So hopefully we can.
Can I point out that
Victor, I noticed Diane Wilson is live. Diane, do you want to say anything before we finish?
I would just like to thank all of you for sharing. I'm literally tired from listening to everything you are all doing. I'm very impressed. I'm taking baby steps on the justice trail by offering a racial justice class right now to about 25 people throughout the region and really around the United States, people I knew through disciples in Oregon, yeah, and Washington, and next week somebody from Massachusetts will be there, maybe Virginia. So we're reading a historical novel called The Book of Lost Friends, which is about emancipation and slavery. And I felt that was a soft way to invite people in that were more afraid of the nonfiction book of white fragility that we're reading. And we're reading Citizen also by Claudia Rankine. And it's just been so exciting. Even people that are not coming online to learn are learning. They're still reading the books, and they're talking with me separately and talking with their families. You know, sharing their stories. Yes, thank you so much, Victor, for sharing your story. I don't think I've ever met you. I've met your son at annual meeting.
Okay.
So you never know, you know. Anyway, thank you so much. This was inspiring, encouraging, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have three others who I've just discovered we can invite to talk. Kimberly, Laurie, or Liz, do you want to add anything before we finish? Thank you very much for listening and for contributing your questions.
Thank you. I know I've met a couple of you through Pastor Dan's discussion groups on Friday night, as he's been hosting as we shelter in place. So I really appreciate the work that all four of you are doing in justice for the homeless. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And we have our own challenges here in Pacific Grove, and the city is in the process of a 2-year study to get affordable housing into the area, as well as more diversity, because we are a very homogenized group of people. So I'm looking forward to the changes coming to Pacific Grove. And I also have very big environmental interests. We are a Green Chalice congregation. We are certified. And my involvement on the environmental front is this proposed hotel, in which I'm part of a citizens grassroots group to help that it gets smaller. The project is needed, but it doesn't have to be so big. And it's a huge uphill battle. So thank you.
You know, we had a chat comment. Parents are at work, and you know, I want to just pray for the parents that are at work, because you know, we're at a time when so many people are out of work and finding it difficult to take care of their families and so on. So, you know, we want to pray and for those who are at work, and that they keep their jobs, and that we continue to move forward, and our economy rebounds, and even some of the work that you know, we're doing here. You know, so some of these things may never go back to the way they were. You know, we may be in a virtual industrial revolution, and you know, we got to get ready for it, and you know, and keep on going. So shout out to the parents who are at work. It's tough. You know.
Liz,
Well-
did you want to say something? You're unmuted.
Sure. I'm part of Placer People of Faith Together, and we're working on housing using church parking lots for people to park their RVs. Also church parking lots for folks who sleep in their cars. It's slow going. Placer County, the Board of Supervisors is not too gung-ho about this, but we're staying with it, and hopefully eventually we'll get through.
Yeah.
That's our big project.
Yeah.
Good.
You have
Well,
any last comments, Laurie?
I'm just kind of sitting back and listening to everything. And I attend the same Pacific Grove Church as Kimberly, and we have been welcoming people to our Friday night discussions. We're very small, but the core group that attends those Zoom meetings are hopeful, and we are working to help bring good news to everybody and enlighten them about the needs of everyone and how everyone should be included. I teach elementary school, and so I put that comment in about how parents are back at work. Many parents
Yeah.
are back at work, and the children are at home alone, a lot of them. And so it's a struggle for them to stay with the program and do the work online. So I know it's really heartbreaking for the families because they can't help their kids with school. And then the teachers are just, we're not there. So yeah, it's a struggle. And as you say, I think, you know, maybe I'm being myopic, but I just really feel like right now with this pandemic, there are so many needs that are immediate. And I know that we need to have long range plans, but it really feels to me, I agree with you that we have to plan for now, and take care of now. for the future. We're not going to have a generation that can provide for their own. So thank you guys. It's been really, really nice to just kind of eavesdrop on your conversations.
Yeah. Well, you guys are welcome. You know, it's a surprise. I didn't know you're going to be able to join us, but you know, man, it's great. Thank you.